Try writing your name with your other hand. Go ahead, actually do it. It feels wrong, doesn't it? Not difficult. Wrong. Like operating a machine that belongs to somebody else. That feeling is one of the oldest things about you. Older than writing, older than farming, older than your species, and for 100 years we had no real explanation for it. Just a vague answer about brain halves and a shrug. That finally changed. You probably learned it like this. The left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. You're right-handed because your left hemisphere is dominant. Done. That's true. And it explains almost nothing. Because it just moves the problem one step back. Fine. The left hemisphere runs your hand. So why does it run almost everybody's hand? Evolution does not hand out 90-10 splits for free. Cats favor a paw. Individual chimpanzees favor a hand. But count a whole population and it lands near 50-50 every time. Individuals have preferences. The species doesn't. We are the exception. 9 out of 10, same direction, every continent, every culture anyone has ever surveyed. Something pushed us there. And it took 2 million years. In 2016, David Freyer, an anthropologist at the University of Kansas, published an analysis of an upper jaw from Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. It belonged to a Homo habilis who died 1.8 million years ago. Freyer wasn't interested in the bone. He was looking at the teeth. The enamel was covered in tiny scratches and they weren't random. They ran in a consistent diagonal, upper left down to lower right. Here is how that happens. You have a strip of meat too tough to bite through, so you clamp one end in your teeth, pull it tight with one hand, and cut through it with a stone flake held in the other. Every so often the blade skips and drags across your own teeth. The angle of that drag tells you which hand held the stone. He was right-handed. That's 1.8 million years ago, before Homo sapiens, before Neanderthals, before anything you would recognize as a person. And it wasn't a one-off. Researchers have run the same analysis on dozens of individuals across Europe. Neanderthals from Regordo in France, Neanderthals from El Cidrón in Spain, and the extraordinary collection at Cima de los Huesos, a pit in the Atapuerca Hills where 400,000 years of remains piled up. Same scratches, same diagonal, same hand. Across the whole sample, somewhere between 9 and 19 out of every 20 were right-handed. Think about that. The ratio you can measure in your own office was locked in before our species existed. Neanderthals had it. Their ancestors had it. It is older than us. The stone tools tell the same story, just more quietly. In 1985, an archaeologist named Nicholas Toth learned to knap stone the way early humans did, then studied the debris from Kubi Fora in Kenya, 1.5 million years old. Here's the trick. When you strike flakes off a core, you rotate it as you work. A right-hander turns it one way, a left-hander turns it the other. And that rotation leaves a fingerprint in the flakes. Toth counted them. It was a lean. Not a landslide, but it leaned the same way, again and again across thousands of years. And then there's my favorite piece of evidence, because it's the one you've already seen. Cave walls. The hand stencils. Someone puts a hand flat against the rock, fills their mouth with powdered pigment, and sprays. There are hundreds of these across the world. El Castillo in Spain, Chauvet in France, Sulawesi in Indonesia, at least 39,000 years old, and roughly 3 out of 4 of them are left hands. Not because those people were left-handed, the opposite. You press the hand you can spare against the wall, and you do the delicate work with the hand you trust. Which means the oldest self-portraits our species ever made are, accidentally, a record of which hand we favored. 40,000 years ago, someone stood in the dark with a mouthful of ochre and left proof. So the pattern is ancient, but that still doesn't tell us why. And in 2026, a study finally put forward a serious answer. 2 things had to change first. We had to stand up, and our brains had to get much bigger. Start with standing up. On 4 limbs, your hands are landing gear and both do the same job. The moment you stand upright, they stop being feet. They're free all day, every day for tasks that have nothing to do with moving. And here's the thing about a freed up hand. Precision improves with repetition. Crack nuts with whichever hand is closer and both stay mediocre. Always use the same one, and that one gets good, really good. The brain builds dedicated circuitry for it and stops maintaining the backup. Specialization beats symmetry. It just costs you a spare. Now, the brain, a big brain is expensive. Running two identical copies of every process is a waste of energy. So as brains expanded, they divided the labor. And this is where it gets interesting, because of what else ended up on the left. In about 95% of right-handed people, language is processed on the left side of the brain. Speech and handedness sit on the same side. That is not a coincidence. Speaking a sentence and threading a needle are, mechanically, the same problem. Both put small, precise movements in exactly the right order at exactly the right speed. Syllables or fingers, the brain doesn't much care. It's sequencing either way, and the region that handles speech sits directly against the strip of cortex that controls your hand. So handedness may never have been about hands at all. Your right hand may be dominant because your left hemisphere got the contract for fine sequencing, and language moved in next door. You might be right-handed because your ancestors learned to talk. But if right-handedness is so useful, there's an obvious problem. Why is anyone left-handed? 10% is a strange number. It's too high to be a glitch. Errors get filtered out over 2 million years. 10% means something is actively keeping left-handers around. In 2004, two biologists at the University of Montpellier, Charlotte Fourie and Michel Raymond, went looking for what? They surveyed 8 traditional societies with very different levels of violence. The pattern they found was uncomfortable. The more violent the society, the more left-handers it had. At the peaceful end, around 3%. Among the Apo of Papua New Guinea, one of the most violent groups in the sample, closer to 1 in 4. The explanation is brutally simple. If you're left-handed, almost everyone you ever fought was right-handed. You've spent your life training against them. They've barely trained against you. Their guard is on the wrong side. Their instincts point the wrong way. You can watch this in modern sport. In boxing, fencing, cricket, and table tennis, left-handers are wildly overrepresented at elite level. In darts, gymnastics, and swimming, where you never face an opponent, they sit at exactly the population rate. If you've ever wondered why every boxing coach on earth quietly dreads southpaws, that's why. It isn't talent, it's arithmetic. But the advantage only works while it's rare. If half the world were left-handed, everyone would train for it and the edge would evaporate. So the population settles where being unusual still pays. 10% isn't a leftover. It's an equilibrium. And if you're one of that 10%, you already knew most of this. Put your hand up in the comments. I want to see the split. Now here's the part almost nobody mentions. That 90-10 split might not even be the real number. In 1992, researchers at the Monell Chemical Senses Center analyzed more than 1 million survey responses, sorted by year of birth. People born around 1900 reported being left-handed about 3% of the time. People born after 1950, about 11%. Nothing genetic changed in 50 years. What changed is that schools stopped punishing it. For generations, children who reached with the wrong hand had it slapped, tied, or sat on until they gave up. Not in some distant era. Within living memory. Ask anyone's grandparents. So 9 out of 10 is partly a measurement of biology and partly a measurement of how much force we use to apply to small children. So here's the full picture. 2 million years ago, we stood up and our hands came free. Our brains grew, split the workload, and handed precision to the left hemisphere. Language moved in next door. One hand got the training, the other got demoted to holding things steady. A stubborn 10% stayed different because being different was worth something in a fight. And then for a century, we tried to beat it out of them, and mostly failed. All of it is in your hands right now, the one you write with, and the one you don't think about. You didn't choose either. That was decided in Tanzania and Spain and a cave in Indonesia by people whose names you'll never know, before there was a word for hand. Next time your other hand does something clumsy, don't be annoyed with it. It's doing exactly what it was assigned to do 2 million years ago. Every study is linked below, in case you'd rather argue with the evidence than with me.